Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks. Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Education SOE, Master's Degree Programs, Master of Arts, Distance Education, MDE, First Year. MDE-413 Learner Support Systems and Services. Block-2 Learner Support, Development of Skills. Unit 1, Cognitive Skills.
1.0 Introduction. In distance education, learners are expected to acquire knowledge through creative methods by working on the activities or exercises given in the self-learning materials. In addition to these, they also need to remember some important dates, for example, teleconferencing schedule, virtual class timings, last dates for submitting assignment responses, filling up term and examination forms, etc. The learners require cognitive skills to carry out these responsibilities in accordance with their abilities. Cognitive skills are those skills which help learners to read effectively, write passages, essays, reports, make numerical calculations, and expedite information and communication technology (ICT) skills. Neisser, 1967, said that cognitive skills are the processes by which sensory input is transformed, reduced, encoded, stored, recovered, and used. The major concern for a distance learner is, in what ways he can learn better and effectively. In other words, they desire to know how learners use the learning tools in their learning activities. If we say they need to learn some procedures to do so, then that leads to another question: what skills they need to adopt or develop so that they can have command and control on these procedures. Cognitive skills, which comprise of knowledge, skills and actions, help learners to accelerate their learning activities in more effective and efficient ways. Thus, it is a prerequisite for knowledge acquisition. The specific subject matter that is operational for investigative purposes encompasses mental states and processes. Butterfield and DeCashan, 1976. Several processes associated with cognitive behavior are perception, information, representation in memory, use of knowledge. Norman and Romerat, 1975. Sensation, imagery retention, recall, problem solving, and thinking. Neisser, 1967. The manner in which a learner employs these various processes in relation to his/her personal cognitive capabilities for the efficient use of information in activities such as comprehension, listening, and reading, is the major determinant of individual differences in the acquisition of skills. Simon, 1975. 1.1 Learning Outcomes. This unit will explain the significance and need of cognitive skills in teaching learning domain in global and distance education in particular. It further analyzes and examines how cognitive skills help learners in their learning activities. After working through this unit, you should be able to discuss the components of cognitive skills, explain cognition in teaching learning contexts, illustrate types of memory, elucidate the significance of cognitive skills in the open and distance learning, analyze the revised Bloom's taxonomy on cognitive learning, and differentiate mind mapping from concept mapping. 1.2 What are cognitive skills? Cognitive skills are the basic mental abilities that we use to think, study, and learn. In the context of distance education, they are regarded as any mental skills that are used in the process of acquiring knowledge, covering a wide variety of mental processes such as ability to identify images, analyze sounds, recapitulate information, search facts in memory, associate and dissociate different pieces of information and use them in appropriate contexts. Cognitive skills accelerate learners' efficiency, strengthen their ability and capability in learning activities. In a sense, they make learners' learning easy and comfortable. It is stated that cognitive skills are the skills that help learners in the transfer of their skills to the requisite skills to facilitate their study and establish learning as an easy process. With the help of cognitive skills, we can cognize objects, events, concepts, in the appropriate contexts. Thus, the basic question needs to address here is that what is cognition? Cognition in teaching learning domain is interchangeably used as knowledge. It is an apprehension, or consciousness, or awareness of an object. It reveals or manifests all objects just as the light of a lamp reveals all physical objects. The object of apprehension may be a substance, quality, an act, an emotion, the existent and non-existent things of the world. But in all these cases, cognition means there must be something that stands out as the object of knowledge. Cognition is of two types. These are 1. Presentative cognition. 2. Representative cognition. Memory. In presentative cognition, the objects are directly presented, whereas in case of representative cognition, memory, the objects are indirectly recalled. All sorts of cognition may not be valid because to have a valid cognition, there should be the right apprehension of an object. In other words, cognition is valid when knowledge of an object must correspond to the reality. Thus, it states that a valid cognition is the manifestation of an object as it is. There are some situations where knowledge of an object is presentative in character but not valid, such as doubt and error. Doubt arises due to the isolation of mind between certain positions. In doubt, the cognizor is unable to decide the content of cognition. For example, the snake and a rope are alike. As a result, we are in a position to doubt a rope as a snake. This happens because of the following reasons. 1. Something is presented before the cognizor. 2. Cognizor is unable to decide the cognition. 3. Certain alternatives are equally forcing to recognize the object. 4. It results in the form of interrogation. Consider the issue error. It is also representative in nature but not a valid cognition. In error, an object is cognized as having certain characteristics and these fall outside of its being. Thus, it is a wrong apprehension in which the object is taken for what it is not. For example, cognizing shell as silver. Now, what we mean by the terms cognition and cognitive skills should be clear to you. 1.3 Components of cognitive skills. Cognitive skills have some essential components. These are perception, memory, logical thinking, concentration, rational attitude. Let us discuss these components in the context of distance learning and acknowledge their role in teaching learning activities. 1.3.1 Perception. The term perception is understood here as looking things in right perspectives. But it is noticed that different people perceive an issue differently because of various reasons which we are not elucidating here because it is not our present concern. Since they perceive differently, they have different opinions, and therefore they treat an issue differently. For example, she is sharp. This sentence is understood differently by her teachers, parents, colleagues, and intimate friends, though it conveys one and only one meaning, i.e., about her talent. Thus, perception is contextualized, subjective, and depends on many other extraneous surrounding factors. To support this argument, Immanuel Kant, 1724 to 1804, says that we see things not as they are but as we are. In the context of they, it is suggested that learners should perceive things or facts correctly, and by doing so they can adapt right perception, and hence, it should guide them to achieve their goals. For example, Sushma and Mamta have received their assignment responses back with tutor comments and grades. Sushma got A whereas Mamta got B grade. In this situation, Mamta claims that Sushma wrote assignment responses by getting help from me and scored higher than me. Thus, there may not be proper evaluation happening in the day setup. Again, the evaluation procedures may not have been followed strictly by the evaluators. Hence, she got demotivated towards her studies. In this case, It is advised that Mimta should perceive the fact correctly why she did not receive a grade instead of comparing Sushma's grade with hers and getting disoriented in her studies. 1.32 Memory. Memory as one of the main components of cognitive skills helps learners in remembering and recapitulating events, or concepts, or particular objects in their actual forms. It is of 5 kinds. These are: 1. Short-term memory, it lasts from a few seconds to a minute. 2. Long-term memory, an ability to recapitulate the long past events. 3. Receptive memory, remembering the physical postures of an object of recent past. 4. Sequential memory, remembering things in an order. 5. Rote memory, it is a habit to learn and remember certain information. These memories are not only assisting learners to recast their study content on time but also relate this information to their experiences for better understanding. Long-term memories become the library of facts upon which learners build their concepts and accumulate knowledge. Short-term memory helps to capture the dynamic data during the learning experience. Apart from these memories, there are 2 other important memories also found in teaching learning activities. A. Episodic memory. B. Semantic memory. Episodic and semantic memory. Episodic memory is memory for personal experience. Semantic memory is for acquiring the knowledge about the world. Knowledge available for an attempted understanding of learning strategies comes mainly from studies of episodic memory, but probably most of what goes in a practical learning situation is recognition of semantic memory. O'Neill, H. F. Jr. and Spielberger, C. D. 1979, p. 102. According to Tulving, 1972, episodic memory receives and stores information about temporally dated episodes or events, and temporal spatial relators among those events. Semantic memory is the memory necessary for the use of language. It is a mental thesaurus, organized knowledge a person possesses about words and other verbal symbols, their meanings and referents, about relations among them, and about rules, formulas, and algorithms for the manipulation of these symbols, concepts, and relations. Pages 385 to 386. A diagram of the memories is placed below for your understanding and reference. The function of memory is irreplaceable in learning activities. This is so because learning is to understand, conceptualize, analyze, interpret, remember, and recapitulate the issues or events. Hence, memory becomes a vital component of learning. Learning through any means requires memory functions because it is the memory that decides the correct and relevant information to receive and process from the irrelevant and unnecessary information among other varieties of information. Memory helps us to recall where the particular information is located and how it can be traced out. 1.3.3 Logical thinking. Thinking logically means thinking step by step or in a chronological order. And to do so, learners need the support of mental processes, and these can't be inherited from our ancestors, nor would it be considered as a matter of genetic endowment. To think logically on an issue is to acquire a systematic study and understanding. It guides us to apply our reasons constantly and consistently to achieve a particular predetermined goal, and even assists us to get multiple solutions of a problem. It improvises our performance in reading, writing, searching/browsing, and organizing study materials. 1.3.4 Concentration. Concentration is one of the chief mental functions of human beings. It is an ability that assists learners to remain mentally alert on a particular object, issue, subject, content, etc., and observe the same carefully. Without concentration, there may be no activity, be it academic or non-academic. You might have experienced that at times plenty of things stimulate your sensory receptors, but all are not transformed into mental representations. You select one or two objects depending on the priority of your work and time limit, and you ignore the rest. If you cannot select and concentrate on a particular object, then your mind may be distracted by a number of uninvited stimuli around you, such as smell, taste, noise, etc. To improve your concentration, you should adhere to these guidelines. A. Ensure understanding of the subject contents. B. Retain and maintain interest in the subject matter. C. Have a purpose while doing any activity. D. Make sure your attention is focused. E. Transform good procedures into habits. F. Reward yourselves once you achieve the preset goals. Concentration is of three types. I. An ability to concentrate on a particular task. 2. An ability to focus on several important tasks at once. 3. An ability to filter irrelevant information and remain focused on a particular task. Concentration is an act of will and doesn't happen automatically. Thus, concentrating on a particular task guides learners to fix their priority and set their attainable goals, which help them in achieving success. This practice even assists them in grasping the study contents systematically. 1.3.5 Rational attitude. Rational attitude is interpreted here as positive behavior towards an issue or an object or subject of a study. It says not to give up your hope on any issue. If you are determined and committed to do a task and wish to work on your shortcomings to overcome the avoidable barriers, you can reach your target. This enables them to fix achievable goals on a par with one's abilities and capabilities. It guides learners to move in the right path. It helps them to take correct decisions on an issue. To develop this attitude, one needs to be focused on a particular attainable goal. For example, all distance learners want to successfully complete their courses within the stipulated time and achieve success in their studies. To do so, one should develop the rational attitude within himself/herself and try to do the regular academic activities on time. Even by doing self-assessment questions and exercises, they can enhance their learning experiences. Further, rational attitude assists learners to search and process the information by overpowering their laziness. It develops the critical thinking and creative approaches in their studies. Thus, it empowers learners to consider the learning activities as a routine work and easy task. In these ways, components of cognitive skills immensely assist learners to do their routine activities religiously, regularly, and enable them to comply and complete their study tasks in time. 1.4 Cognitive skills and distance learning. Cognitive skills are intended to promote inquiry learning, which is a part of educational methods. To define inquiry learning, it is interpreted as an educational activity in which learners either individually or collectively investigate a set of phenomena, virtual or real, and draw conclusions on it. According to De Jong and Van Gillinge, 1998, learners direct their own investigatory activity, but they may be prompted to formulate questions, plan their activities, draw and justify conclusions about what they have learnt. They come to understand that they are able to acquire knowledge that they desire, virtually in any content domains, in a way that they can initiate, manage, and execute on their own, and that such knowledge is empowering. P.496. Since they inherently accommodates different learning styles, learners prefer to adopt technological instructions in their learning. This is so because the technological environments are multimodal and are supported by audio, video, texts, and provide facilities to individual as well as groups to interact in synchronous and asynchronous formats. Technological platforms support learners to represent linear and nonlinear content, and hence providing a variety of learning tools to cater different learning styles adopted by learners. In this context, Brunner, 1961, says that a strategy developed by a learner in accordance with cognitive abilities and situational demands would be most effective in relating new information to previously obtained experiences. Learning and cognition are highly interdependent with each other because both need a platform called understanding. According to Novak, meaningful learning involves the assimilation of new concepts and propositions into existing hierarchies. Lansing, T. 2004. Salomon, Perkins and Globerson, 1991, suggest that cognitive tools or mind tools refer to technologies, tangible or intangible, that enhance the cognitive powers of learners during thinking, problem-solving, and learning. In Jonason's 1970 view, learners are active constructors of knowledge. He expresses that cognitive tools are developed to function as intellectual patterns to enable and facilitate critical thinking and higher-order learning. Cognitive skills empower learners to design their own representation of knowledge and use those to support deep reflective thinking. Thus, cognitive tools enable learners in mindful, challenging learning. Donjero, 1978, says that cognitive skills help learners to identify the relevant and pertinent materials for their courses. It also helps them to retrieve information under appropriate situations or contexts. 1.4.1 Technologies as cognitive tools. In distance education, settings as such, the technological intervention is quite a common phenomenon. Here, technology doesn't stand alone as media, rather it is observed as integrated phenomena. Learners learn in technological environment through multiple media. The use of web-based learning or online learning falls within this category. Learning through technology requires learners' self-regulation, motivation, and time management approaches. It helps learners to learn successfully in these settings. Participation in technological environment becomes crucial for learning to happen, and this can facilitate, collaborate, and cooperate lifelong learning. Thus, learning through technology is an inquisitive approach to effective learning. In the technological platform, nothing stimulates they except web-based learning. The web is now causing educators, instructors, and even learners ranging from preschool to higher education to identify the very nature of teaching and learning differently. Researchers have found that web can facilitate free teaching, which may liberate learners from the physical boundaries of classrooms and the time constraint of class schedule. The earlier practice of classroom lectures becomes webcasted through multimedia, which inspires learners in their learning experience. Learning through multimedia helps learners to reorganize and reinvent. Thus, it supports learner-centric education rather than teacher-centric instructional curriculum. Learning through technology certainly has potential benefits provided learners show their inclination on technological use and are acquainted with its multiple applications. In this regard, Cuban, 1993, pointed out that the following advantages can be derived by using computer in teaching learning domain. To keep the education system at the forefront of technological development and learners' skills up to date with those expected in the workforce. 2. To increase efficiency and productivity in teaching and learning. And 3. To enable more self-directed learning. Cognitive skills help in improving learners' reading and writing techniques, considered to be essential tools for all learners. Further, communication skills are also guided by the cognitive skills. Here we will discuss how reading and writing techniques and communication skills help distance learners in accomplishing their study tasks. 1.4.2 Reading and writing techniques. In the context of reading and writing techniques are the key issues for the learners. It is so because they need to deal with these two activities in a rigorous manner.
To enhance reading and writing techniques, they require cognitive skills, such as concentration, memory, logical thinking, and communication skills, which have been discussed earlier in this unit. These features help a distance learner to carry forward his/her learning tasks in a successful manner. There are 5 stages to acquire the reading competency, which is supported by cognitive skills, prescribed by Chol, 1979. In the first stage, learners learn the basic decoding skills. It means they learn the letters of the alphabet, how to represent the letters phonetically, what the letters are for, and how to distinguish similar looking words, e.g., book versus ball. In the second stage, learners involve in consolidating what was learned in the first stage. Extensive practice with reading materials that is already familiar and known permits learners to concentrate on written words and practice their decoding skills. In the third stage, instead of concentrating on learning to read, learners begin to use reading to learn, i.e., they use reading to acquire new knowledge about the world. In this stage, they learn new facts, concepts, and events of the world. Besides, their concentration lie only to progress in their learning and understanding the issues that they are reading. In the fourth stage, learners read to acquire new points of view and new multifaceted concepts. At the final stage, they learn to use written materials to serve their own specific purpose, i.e., they know which parts of a text to read, which to skim, and which to avoid. Chol, 1979, p. 44. Whenever we discuss study techniques, immediately SQ3 are techniques. S. Survey. Q. Questioning. R1. Reading. R2. Reviewing. R3. Recalling. Recapitulating appear in our mind, though these do not constitute all the activities of study techniques. It suggests some other techniques as well, such as a. Developing time management approach, b. Familiarizing with the course, c. Self-motivation, d. Coping with stress, e. Setting attainable, achievable, and possible goals, f. Peer group interactions, g. Developing online search skills, h. Evaluating one's own progress at regular intervals. By practicing these techniques, learners can organize, plan, and execute their study effectively and purposefully, and hence, learning becomes an easier and lifelong phenomenon for them. Without these skills, learning will be difficult or just impossible for them. The key to solving a pertinent learning challenge is to strengthen a learner's basic processing or cognitive skills. 1st April 2003. Developing communication skills. Communication skills assist learners to communicate their thoughts intentionally and purposefully. It suggests that one can share his/her feelings, emotions, and even inner desires to others if he/she uses the correct vocabulary in the sentences before his/her deliverances, either written or utterances. Communication skills help us to construct not only a bond between learners and tutors, but also among their peer groups. In addition to these, they assist in accessing subject contents in an easy, comfortable, and progressive ways. All these components of cognitive skills together suggest that learners can enhance their learning experience by adapting and practicing these skills in their study tasks. Further, these assist learners not only in identifying images, analyzing sounds, recapitulating information, searching facts in memory, but also in learning scientifically and arguing logically. By supporting in these ways, cognitive skills encourage and inspire learners to do multiple activities in various fields and be creative in their approaches and understanding. From the above analysis, it is asserted that there are two basic elements required for the development of cognitive skills. These are language and logic. The developments in use of language alongside the logical organization of thoughts are basic prerequisites for building cognitive skills and exercising learners' ability to handle study tasks and preserve update information for their learning activities. Both are in a process of continual development, and they allow learners to construct and use certain skills which are vital for the acquisition of knowledge and for the further development of human activity, behavior, and movement. Cognitive skills comprise of information processing tools and all the data which one possesses throughout one's life. Without the development of cognitive skills, we will be having great difficulty in handling information, transferring them into knowledge, and being able to use them in actual learning contexts. A basic question arises on learning, i.e., how does a learner improve his/her thinking while learning? Bloom's taxonomy may help to answer this question in an appropriate manner. 1.5 Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom attempted to answer this question by developing a method of classification for thinking behaviors that were believed to be important in the processes of learning. Eventually, this framework became taxonomy and was found in 3 domains. The cognitive knowledge-based domain, consisting of 6 levels. The affective attitudinal-based domain, consisting of 5 levels, and the psychomotor skill-based domain, consisting of 6 levels. Here, we will discuss only the cognitive domain because of its relevance in this unit. Bloom has depicted the 6 cognitive levels of thinking in a stairway. It starts with the lowest level named as knowledge and ends with the highest level termed as evaluation. The sequences from the lowest to highest level are knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. This taxonomy is presented in a hierarchical form because if a learner is functioning at the analysis level, it is assumed that as he has mastery over the study contents or subjects at the comprehension and application levels. This hierarchy of thinking and learning in educational paradigm is changed in the later period by Bloom's pupil Lauren Anderson. The later version is much appropriate because it is framed keeping in mind the latest curriculum of subject of studies available across the globe, instructional design of materials, technology integration, creative and critical thinking of learners, and the assessment and evaluation patterns used in the academic programs in the educational domains scattered in all countries of the world. In short, it has been revised by considering the present demand of teaching learning activities. The changes are found in 3 broad categories: terminology, structure, and emphasis. The major category is prominently marked in the changes as verb forms instead of nouns. These changes are also presented in the hierarchy forms. In this case, the lowest level is remembering, whereas the apex level is creating. It follows from lowest to highest in this stairway: remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. This structure is known as Bloom's revised taxonomy. The new terms are defined as remembering, retrieving, recognizing, and recalling relevant knowledge from long-term memory, understanding, constructing meaning from oral, written, and graphic messages through interpreting, exemplifying, classifying, summarizing, inferring, comparing, and explaining, applying, carrying out or using a procedure through executing or implementing, analyzing, breaking material into constituent parts, determining how these parts relate to one another and to an overall structure or purpose through differentiating, organizing, and attributing, evaluating, making judgments based on criteria and standards, through checking and critiquing, creating, putting elements together to form a coherent or functional whole, recognizing elements into a new pattern of structured through generating, planning, or producing. Anderson and Krutwol, 2001, pp. 67-68. Graphical presentations of Bloom's old and revised taxonomy are presented below for your understanding and reference. Old version. Lower order thinking skills to higher order thinking skills. Knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation. Revised version is remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating. Now let us discuss the two important tools, mind mapping and concept mapping, and discuss their association with cognitive skills in relation to learning and understanding events and concepts. 1.6 Mind mapping and concept mapping. Cognitive skills play a major role to construct mind mapping and concept mapping while studying self-learning materials, SLMs. When learners read the SLMs, it is expected that they should understand, conceptualize, and relate the information to their experiences for better and effective learning. To do so, they often require mind mapping as well as concept mapping tools. Let us discuss these tools and see how they help distance learners to make their learning easier and faster. Mind mapping. In mind mapping, it is always found to be a core concept that branches out into some relevant and related subconcepts. It is presented in a hierarchical or tree format. Again, the subconcepts further branch out into subconcepts. For example, the concept pen branches out into writing, plastics, ink, paper, etc. Further, the subconcept ink branches out into blue, green, red, black, etc. Thus, it is stated that mind mapping is a powerful technique that allows learners to make the best use of their brain power by harnessing the full range of their cognitive skills. A mind map can be used either for note-taking or note-making. It replaces the inefficient method of linear note-taking and opens up the creative processes and provides a diagram of the whole concept which cannot easily be obtained by any other methods. By using the mind mapping tool, learners can combine words, pictures, icons or symbols, sounds, colors and maybe other imagery structures those relevant and fit into organizing their ideas. Mind maps are also considered as brainstorming diagrams based on a central idea or image, typically used to aid in organization, problem solving, and decision making. A mind map is a graphical way to represent nonlinear ideas and concepts. It is a visual thinking tool that helps structuring information, helping learners to better analyze, comprehend, synthesize, recall, and generate new ideas. Mind maps are used to generate, visualize, structure, classify ideas, and as an aid in study, organization, problem solving, decision making, and writing. Mind maps and concept maps are different on the ground that mind maps focus on only one central word or a principal idea, whereas concept maps connect multiple words or ideas together. We will discuss the concept mapping in the next passage and analyze how cognitive skills help to frame the concept map on a particular concept or word. See the pictorial diagram of mind mapping in Figure 1.1. Look at the screen. Concept mapping. Concept mapping is a graphical tool for learning, developed by Novkan Gowin, 1984. A concept map is a diagram to show the compact relationships among concepts. They are graphical images for organizing and representing knowledge. A concept map represents the relations between ideas, images, concepts, or words, as a road map represents the locations of highways and towns. In a concept map, each word or concept is connected to another and linked back to the original word, image, or concept. By the help of concept maps, learners can develop logical thinking and study skills which are part of cognitive skills. Therefore, concept maps ascertain meaningful learning. To adapt Andadhere to the concept mapping tool in learning activities is to learn meaningfully in any context. Thus, learning becomes a unique and creative phenomenon. See the pictorial diagram of concept mapping in Figure 1.2. Example of concept mapping. 1.7 Let us sum up. Cognitive skills are understood as the basic mental abilities that we use to think, study, and learn. To interpret in the context of distance education, it is regarded as any mental skills that are used in the process of acquiring knowledge. Cognition is of two types. These are I. Presentative cognition. 2. Representative cognition, memory. In presentative cognition, the objects are directly presented, whereas in case of representative cognition, memory, the objects are indirectly recalled. All sorts of cognition may not be valid because to have a valid cognition, there should be the right apprehension of an object. In other words, a cognition is valid when knowledge of an object must correspond to the reality. Thus, it states that a valid cognition is the manifestation of an object as it is. Cognitive skills have some essential components. These are perception, memory, logical thinking, concentration, rational attitude. Memory is of 5 kinds. These are a. Short-term memory, it lasts from a few seconds to a minute. B. Long-term memory, an ability to recapitulate the long past events. C. Receptive memory, remembering the physical postures of an object of recent past. D. Sequential memory, remembering things in an order. E. Rote memory, it is a habit to learn and remember certain information. Concentration is of 3 types. I. An ability to concentrate on a particular task. 2. An ability to focus on several important tasks at once. And 3. An ability to filter irrelevant information and remain focused on a particular task. To improve one's own concentration, one should adhere to these guidelines. A. Ensure understanding of the subject contents. B. Retain and maintain interest in the subject matter. C. Have a purpose while doing any activity. D. Make sure your attention is focused. E. Transform good procedures into habits. F. Reward yourselves once you achieve the preset goals. Learning through technology certainly has potential benefits provided learners show their inclination for technological use and are acquainted with its multiple applications. In this regard, Cuban, 1993, pointed out that the following advantages can be derived by using computer in teaching learning domain to keep the education system at the forefront of technological development and learners' skills up to date with those expected in the workforce, to increase efficiency and productivity in teaching and learning, and to enable more self-directed learning. The revised Bloom's taxonomy is presented in a stairway from lower order thinking to higher order thinking skills, remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. The terms are defined as remembering, retrieving, recognizing, and recalling relevant knowledge from long-term memory. Understanding, constructing meaning from oral, written, and graphic messages through interpreting, exemplifying, classifying, summarizing, inferring, comparing, and explaining. Applying, carrying out or using a procedure through executing, or implementing. Analyzing, breaking material into constituent parts, determining how these parts relate to one another and to an overall structure, or purpose through differentiating, organizing, and attributing. Evaluating, making judgments based on criteria and standards through checking and critiquing. Creating, putting elements together to form a coherent or functional whole, recognizing elements into a new pattern of structure through generating, planning, or producing. Cognitive skills play a major role to construct mind mapping and concept mapping while studying self-learning materials. When learners read the self-learning materials, it is expected that they should understand, conceptualize, and relate the information to their experiences for the better and effective learning. To do so, they often require mind mapping as well as concept mapping tools. Mind maps and concept maps are different on the ground that mind maps focus on only one central word or a principal idea, whereas concept maps connect multiple words or ideas in together. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.